Second in our poll, Jersey City Mayor Steve Fulop, the first candidate to jump in the race back in 2023. Fulop has led the state's second largest city since 2013. He is a U.S. Marine veteran who enlisted after fleeing Lower Manhattan on 9/11. And he and I sat down in Jersey City. Here it is. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being here.
Hey, good to be here.
So a lot of questions around the topic of affordability, right? So let me begin with this. It's a simple question. At the end of a 4-year term, if you were to win,
yes,
would property taxes be lower?
Yes.
How do you guarantee that?
Well, I guarantee it because I think I have a comprehensive plan, particularly around redoing the school funding formula, around changing the budgeting practices, around taking special education out of the school funding formula. I think that all of those things combined will get you a lower property tax for sure. I think the affordability conversation beyond that, I think your health care will be better as it relates to that, and your energy costs. But
we're going to get to that. Let me stay with.
But I like talking.
I understand. Let me talk about property taxes because the majority of property tax bills go to school districts. You referenced that, right? So there's 590 school districts, 564 municipalities. Let me break it down to twofold. If you were to be governor, would you mandate consolidation of school districts? And if you do, what is that number at the end of a 4-year term?
Yeah. The short answer is I would require shared services and consolidation in municipalities before I would go to the schools. You only have 4 years. You just touched on 1,000 entities. So you got to really drive down costs where you can start. And I know that when you start pushing school consolidation, parents get their backs up against the wall whenever you touch a school, as they should. So I think if our objective is to drive down costs for government, you should start a municipal government, because there's a lot of it, and shared services, and then gradually force consolidation and then move to schools. So in 4 years, I think we're going to have a meaningful impact on municipal consolidation and shared services.
So you're saying combine actual towns?
Yeah, I think.
Give me an example.
I'll give you, well, I mean, there's plenty of towns where you have a donut hole, and the donut around it doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's start with the shared services conversation. So let's say, I grew up in Edison, and Metuchen is the donut hole in Edison, okay? So somebody moves to Metuchen, they obviously want to live in Metuchen, they want that school district, so we got to be sensitive to that. But there's a lot of functions of Metuchen government that you can force shared service with the county and Edison to drive down costs. I'm just going to say, Dan, if my objective is to drive down cost, and that's the goal, it doesn't matter if by name there's 564 municipalities or 400 municipalities. So I'm kind of pragmatic because I've had a lot of successes and failures as an executive here on shared services, so I've kind of learned a lot about it.
Under a mayorship, because a lot of people will say, a lot of the candidates will say, well, the taxes are handled by municipalities and the mayors. As a mayor, did you raise property taxes?
Well, I think we're in line with inflation is where we are. So yeah, I think gradually.
So how can somebody guarantee that you won't do it as governor?
Well, I think that you are starting from an artificially higher place. So out of the 12 years that I've been here, I think 8 or 9 of them have had no property tax increase, none, zero. And a lot of the reason that we've had some fluctuation in what's the gross property taxes because of the schools, because we lost $250 million in schools. So I'm not responsible for that, but we did our best to try and help the schools with that stuff. So if you look at the municipal property taxes in Jersey City under my tenure, you would say that they are remarkably stable.
Okay. Let me talk about transit for a moment. We're coming off the first transit strike since 1983. Glad the trains are up and running again.
Me too.
How do you ensure, if you were governor, the infrastructure improvements are made so that the rails can continue to run on time? On time is a big issue for people.
Yeah. Well, let me say it's a big failure from Phil Murphy. I've had more transportation work in Jersey City than anybody in the state around building out infrastructure here, and I have the most comprehensive plan going forward, whether it's getting New York back to the table on congestion pricing, whether it's the turnpike widening and canceling that and reallocation of dollars for infrastructure, whether it's the corporate business tax that Phil Murphy put in place for 5 years, which was my idea, by the way. He's changed it to change that to perpetuity so you could bond against it. So infrastructure will come from those dollars, and that will hopefully modernize New Jersey Transit.
Would you keep Chris Calori as president? Do you think he's doing a good job?
I don't have an opinion of him one way or the other, but I'd probably not.
From the issue of trains to the skies, we're seeing a big issue over at Newark Airport. Now, I spoke to Senator Andy Kim about this. He says the earliest we can get additional air traffic controllers, which is the problem, is 18 to 24 months. But I've heard a lot of people say surge resources to Newark Airport. It doesn't seem possible. So what is the answer to help people feel safe right now?
Why do they say it's not possible?
Because it takes 18 to 24 months to get somebody to train in that space.
Okay, so let me look at it differently, okay? So there's a couple things that I would point out. I think Phil Murphy's tone on this has been entirely too kind and conciliatory towards Donald Trump, okay? None of this happened under Joe Biden. Start there. Newark is under the Port Authority, which is also responsible for JFK and LaGuardia. Fact. And they don't have the same air traffic control. I think Phil Murphy can use leverage via the Port Authority to get shared resources. That's number one. Number two is I think common sense is that you shouldn't be looking to retrain people. There's plenty of people from McGuire Air Force Base and retirees that live in New Jersey. You got to pay them extra to come and do the work.
So you're saying take an air traffic controller who retired from Newark Airspace, bring them back to work.
Sure, give them 20 grand extra as a bonus and bring them back to work to bridge the time. Like those sort of things should be on the table in order to get people back into the space. But I don't agree that you're going to have 18 to 24 months. That is the lazy person approach to this sort of thing. I think if you're thinking creatively...
But that's the time it takes to train somebody in that space.
Yes. So I am saying that you could bridge the gap there by having a retiree with a surcharge or pressuring shared resources from LaGuardia and JFK. Both of those two things are immediate solutions while you're training people.
Okay, so you mentioned Governor Murphy quite a few times during this, right? He likes to play up as he comes at the end of his term right now. Some big progressive accomplishments. Legalizing marijuana is one of them, paid family leave, raising the minimum wage. But we're seeing more and more support for the Republican Party within the state of New Jersey. So as you are running right now...
Can I say something about those three things?
Sure.
I just want to say, Dan, that it's interesting, those are some of those accomplishments he likes to highlight. The first places in New Jersey that did paid sick leave, minimum wage, and decrim of cannabis, Jersey City, when it was difficult. Just putting that in out there. We've been at the forefront of a lot of these policy things, and I'm happy the state replicates us, but we do things when they're difficult and a little bit more bold. But go ahead.
With that said, though, the question is about the Republican Party gaining some momentum in the state of New Jersey. So as a Democrat, and as you run right now for governor, has Governor Murphy put you in a better or worse position to run as a Democrat?
I think if you are an establishment Democrat, so if you are Mikey Sherrill in North Jersey or Steve Sweeney in South Jersey, you have no shot of winning in November because you are carrying the baggage of 8 years of Phil Murphy, and if you have the same consultants, the same message, even if you say or pretend that you're different, if the same infrastructure has put you there, there is no chance for success. So to summarize your question more clearly, he has put really this election in a challenging position unless you are in a different lane than everybody else.
Meaning Democrats feel differently because of him being governor?
Meaning that Democrats feel differently. In order to win, you need to win independents and Republicans. You cannot win a general election with just Democrats. And independents are going to be talking about, is this 4 more years of Phil Murphy? And that's what Jack Ciattarelli is going to say. So if you're carrying 4 more years of Phil Murphy, your energy bill, 4 more years of Phil Murphy, your taxes, there's no chance for success in November. That's why I think I'm kind of in this unique lane, to be honest with you.
So with that said, a recent polling that we did found a majority of New Jerseyans, 53% want the next governor to work with President Donald Trump. 47% say they want the governor to stand up to President Trump. The number's pretty slim right there. So what would you do?
I think I'm very clear on where my values are. So I think that when he picks on communities and vulnerable communities, LGBTQ community, the transgender community, the immigrant community, I think that you need to speak up. When he undermines the Constitution, I think you need to be aggressive on that stuff. When you don't agree with him on congestion pricing, you need to be aggressive on that stuff. I think that if he is doing things that aren't attacking New Jersey, you cooperate where you can if he's not attacking New Jersey. But I don't think that up to this point, whatever we are, 150 days in, his tone and his actions have undermined the most vulnerable, whether it's Medicaid or whether it's certain communities within New Jersey. So I think it's hard to say I'm going to cooperate with the guy.
So it goes back to the question about the party, right? Because the gap narrowed within the last gubernatorial election between Democrats and Republicans. More people voted for a Republican than in years past. And then it narrowed even more during the presidential election, which is why I'm asking this next question. What is one thing you would stand up to the president on? What is one thing you would work with him on?
Okay, so I think that building out our transportation infrastructure, if he wants to cooperate with that, I think that I am hopeful that we could work together on that sort of stuff. I think that specifically around some of the vulnerable communities that he continues to vilify, you're going to have a really vocal opposition in me on that. So I think those are two kind of polar issues on that. With regards to taxes and affordability, if he wants to be helpful, that's fine. Standing up to insurance companies, if he wants to be helpful, that's fine. I mean, I'm kind of very deliberate and clear where I am in a lot of these issues. It's not about Donald Trump specifically. It's about moving New Jersey forward. And a lot of the things I've outlined, I can do without his help. That's really important to me. But if he wants to cooperate, great. And if he wants to attack us, he'll have a fierce opponent.
So what do you say to an independent Republican then? Because you said that you need to win with them. What are you saying to them that would bring you in?
I mean, I spent yesterday in Ocean County with a bunch of retirees from police and law enforcement that are not my voters, generally speaking. But I could speak to them about some of these communities, and particularly around taxes and trains and buses, in a way that is different than any of the other candidates. And I think when I do that, I can move some of them. You're not going to move them all, but you got to be able to move enough to be successful in November, and that they believe that you're sincere and have a vision. Not all 6 of us can do that. I think the actual number that can do that is less than 2, which means it's 1.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me go to the issue of immigration right now, which is a pretty big issue in our most recent poll.
Yes.
Should New Jersey be a sanctuary state?
New Jersey should keep to the same values on this particular conversation that we've seen for the last 20, 30 years, like in Jersey City. And the short answer is I think Phil Murphy has been okay on this issue. I think there are things he could have done more, and I think that we would be better on it.
So yes, should be a sanctuary state?
So I think a title is, well, what's a title? Sure, yes. But I think that we need to pass the Immigrant Trust Act. I think that we need to stop selling data to ICE from the DMV. I think we need to fund our nonprofits better. So a title and a name doesn't mean anything unless you speak to those values. I think we need to.
So what does the sanctuary status mean to you?
The sanctuary status today, in theory, based on a directive, means that certain components won't cooperate with ICE doing certain things. But it's left to a function of a lot of implementation. And I think that when you put things codified and you take action as an executive, whether it's the DMV or let's say your attorney general from a litigation standpoint, those are more actionable steps than just a name saying we're a sanctuary state or we're not a sanctuary state.
Should there be any level of protection for undocumented people?
I think that everybody agrees that a criminal that is a murderer or rapist should be not here. I don't think we disagree on that. I think that you're entitled to due process. When ICE is breaking into people's homes or businesses and searching without a search warrant and then leaving without arresting somebody, that is a slippery slope that you go down. And I think that that's a conversation that Republicans can understand as much as Democrats.
And we're seeing play out with some of these ICE raids that we're seeing play out around there. Is they're working with state and local authorities. Would you allow the state and local authorities to work with ICE?
No, I don't. Look, my father's store in Newark was raided. It's 4 units. It's a teacher, an Army veteran, an electrical contractor, and a lawyer. They didn't find anybody. They came with no search warrant, and they barged in. I posted the pictures. They went apartment to its due process. So the short answer is that is not the way the country has been founded, based on just searching people and arresting them. It's a slippery slope once you start doing that. So no, I do not think that that's productive. Go through the courts, get a search warrant, go through the process, do the things you're supposed to do, and then the appropriate people you pursue.
All right, and that is 12 minutes. So
that
we're giving everybody equal time.
Wow.
You talk fast. Good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.